Hey everybody, it's Lainey with Parenting Parachute, and I am here today to talk briefly about what to do when you have a strong-willed child, and more importantly today, what not to do. There's a lot of pressure in our parenting culture to get strong-willed children to behave, and I'm just going to dive right in today. I'm going to keep this really short. I'm going to keep it really brief. Because I know a lot of you have strong-willed children, and even though that may not define all of how your strong-willed child may also be super sweet and super sensitive and all these other things, but if your child exhibits traits of being strong-willed, then this is a child who, you say yes, they say no, you say no, they say yes. Clearly a child who is not easily swayed to do what you want them to do, or what the other kids are doing, maybe what the grandparents are asking them to do, maybe even what teachers are asking them to do. If you have a strong-willed child, you kind of know what I'm talking about. So in the poll that I asked you to do a few days ago, a lot of you said that just the nature of your strong-willed child is a really big deal, and makes your child fall into what I will continue to call a challenging category. So the biggest thing that I hear from parents who are at their wits' end, parents who are like, how do I handle a strong-willed child when I actually need them to be behaving and doing certain things at certain times? The advice that these parents are getting, because they share it with me. They're like, well, my pediatrician told me to do this, or my child's teacher told me to do that. Mostly what it comes across as is, we're going to break their spirits. And one teacher actually told a client of mine that what she wanted to do was this. Like, if this was the child, she wanted to go like, I want to like squash that behavior, so that he learns how to behave. And this boy was in pre-K, because he's only going to be asked to behave more and more as he gets older. And so if we don't do that now, then what are we creating for the future? And I understand the fear that parents have. Well, if he doesn't learn, or she doesn't learn to do it now, when is she going to learn to do it? And it's one of my least favorite things that I hear teachers or doctors say, well, you might as well do it now, because you're going to have to do it sometime. They don't have to learn how to do everything right now. And they certainly don't need to know how to do it at the level of an older kid when they're a younger kid, whatever it is, sitting in circle time, putting on their shoes, all of these things that need to get done, I agree, eventually and over time, can be done without doing this, without breaking their spirits, without squashing their confidence, without making them feel like shame of it. I don't belong. The behavior may not fit the situation, and that's important to lean into and figure out, how are we going to shape and guide this behavior without making the child feel like they're a problem, right? They may have a behavior that's not acceptable or out of bounds or inappropriate, but it's not that they themselves are inappropriate, bad, or whatever words are being used for them. So my topic today is, do not do this thing with a strong-willed child. And what I see happening again and again in a lot of different ways is that the messages that are being given to strong-willed kids are along the lines of, that this is a bad thing. And what we really want to do is to be eliminating the word bad, especially from younger kids' vocabulary, because they do not know how to hear that a behavior is bad, but they are not bad. If they're hearing that their behavior is bad, they're going to interpret that as that they're that they themselves are bad, and they will end up feeling bad about themselves. So we don't want to be using shame tactics of any kind with kids who are strong-willed, and we certainly don't want to break their spirit. Because eventually, I know all of you would agree with me, because I've asked this of hundreds of parents who I've talked to, is it that you want to break your child's strong will? Do you see that this could possibly serve them later on? And every parent says, well, sure, I could see this serving them later on. They'll be a kick-ass lawyer, or they're going to be an amazing business negotiator, or, somebody who just, goes after what they want, top salesperson, on their team, whatever the thing is, right? But But I don't want them to be that right now. I don't want them to be so strong-willed right now. I want them to be compliant now, but I want them to magically have this trait not extinguished from them for later. I want to like put it on hold. I want to put it into a little freezer, cryo chamber, and open it back up when they're, when they're older and they're out of the house and I don't have to deal with them. It doesn't work like that. And what I also want you to know here is that by, again, I'm going to go back to what that teacher was saying about squashing a behavior. You can absolutely, parents, you can do whatever you want with your kids, right? Like I know basically, unless you really cross lines, then somebody's going to come, and get you. But like you can raise your kid however you want, and you have the choice of raising them to become whoever, they were or were not meant to be. That's basically the path that you can choose with kids, is that you can raise them to be the best versions of themselves, or you can raise them to be not the best version of somebody else. So they can, that's what it boils down to, two main things, okay? And what I really hope for with your parenting, with everybody's parenting, is that you're raising them to be the best versions of themselves, because nobody is ever going to grow up to be another version or a better version of somebody else. It's like a cheap copy. It doesn't work like that. Life doesn't work like that, and human development doesn't work like that. And so the main thing to understand here is that when you are seeing your child exhibit a behavior that you don't like, for whatever reason, it's inappropriate for the moment, or it doesn't fit in the values of your family, or it's not going to work in school for them, or it's antisocial, whatever the behavior is, underneath that behavior, there is a need. And as parents, it is our job to figure out what that need is. And when we're talking about strong-willed children, when we are talking about children who fall into what I'm going to continue to call a challenging category, these are not easy kids. When I'm talking about stuff, people with easy kids are going to be like, what's the big deal? I ask my kid to stop jumping on the couch and they stop. And if they don't, I have them sit on this, sit aside for a minute, and then they never do it again. That's what I would call an easy kid. If you have one of those, more power to you, wonderful, it's great. You're not going to relate to what I'm talking about, or, the stuff that I'm talking about. If you have a challenging kid though, you know what I'm talking about. You know that these are kids who, they don't listen the first time. They might not listen the second, third, or fourth time either. You find yourself repeating yourself. You find yourself trying to do the sticker charts, and you try to, you try all the things that they're recommending in the books, and none of it is working. Why? Because there's a need that's underneath your child's behavior that's not being met in some way. And it is our job to learn how to read our kids. Much more important than reading the books, in my opinion, is learning how to read your kid, and to figure out what the need is underneath their behavior. The behavior is just a sign. It's like a neon sign above our kid's head, or anybody's head, really, an adult, any person, anybody's behavior is just a sign that's saying, I actually have this need underneath. I wish it was that easy. I wish it was a sign that we could actually all read very easily, because that would be super convenient. I have all these people showing up. Hi, Christy. Hi, Shannon. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Libby. Hi, Ashley. Good to have you guys here. Gals here, actually. So in learning to help our strong-willed, defiant, impulsive, possibly oppositional child, right? I'll take impulsive out of that, actually, but oppositional child, in helping them actually shape what they are doing, not who they are, but what they're doing, into things that are more positive, that are more adaptive as opposed to maladaptive. We want to be, and we need to help them look at, we need to know what's going on underneath the surface so that they can change their behavior to get more of the results that they want. Because as they get older, if they continue doing those things, they will face rejection. They will face, being sent out of the room, being timed out at school, being rejected by their peers if what they're doing is sort of antisocial behavior. That will happen if it's not already happening so far. If you're not getting the notes from the teachers, you're not getting the reports from school that have started to say, your child is not really doing, or if your child is doing all these things okay at school, but then they're coming home and they're not doing it. That's also a possibility too. So again, I want you to not get so caught up with what the actual behavior is. And I want you to start thinking about what might be underneath the behavior. And if you don't know how to do that, or you don't know, okay, well, I did recognize that underneath their behavior, it was actually this thing. You don't know what to do with that. That's when you would book a call with me, because that would be a conversation. We would need to talk about that so I could hear the details. The other thing that I said not to do, I'm just recapping here, right? The other thing not to do is to think about squashing their spirit in the process of this, because this is something that will eventually serve them. Being strong-willed, having a solid sense of yourself, is actually a very positive thing in the world, okay? And we would just want to be able to shape it and guide it so that it becomes a productive form of this. And it's something that doesn't get in their way. And the third thing was to not just label your child as only being strong-willed, okay? We want to be seeing a whole picture of a child who has a whole bunch of different qualities about them, and not just identifying them as this one aspect of their personality or aspect of their behavior. We really want to be separating the behavior from the child. Those are three really, really important things to not do, or we could frame it positive to do, to separate the child from the behavior. We don't want to be coupling the behavior with the child. Okay, so I hope that this was helpful today. Again, with these quick little training sessions, I'm just giving you, kind of overall ideas. And if these are things that you want to lean into and things that you want to learn how to do, there are absolute practices that parents have to do, and parents have to learn, and parents have to be trained to do these things. I know that you're all smart. I know every single one of you is smart. You understand what I'm saying, but it's different getting it from here to doing the practices to get it to here, so it will come out here and in your facial expression, which is a big part of how we communicate our love to our children and their lovability, which I talked about last time. So I hope this was helpful today. I was gonna say hands up. That's not what I meant to say. Thumbs up to all of you all for being here. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next time, probably next Tuesday. And in the meantime, if you are struggling, if you are suffering, if you are at your wit's end, if you're like, my kid is not on track to, or I'm worried that my child is not on track. Maybe you don't know it, but you're just like, you have this fear of, oh my gosh, I don't know that I'm doing the right things for my kid at this time. I don't know that we're on track to get my kids to be the successful, independent, happy, confident person that I want them to be long term. I'm not sure. I don't know. And I'm having a really, really, really hard time with parenting in a way that I don't hear other people talking about. And I'm not finding my kid in the books, and I'm not finding my kid on the blogs and the internet. I'm not finding them. And I'm, really at a loss of where to go, or you've got a lot of conflicting information coming in on you. Please go ahead and book a call. We'll get things clear. We'll light the path for you, and show you how you can walk a really solid, confident, calm, competent parenting path to get the outcomes that you want, which is a happier you, happier kids, and calmer overall, and relationships that you're going to be nurturing for life that will be healthy, based in healthy attachment, so that your kids can navigate the world with success, can choose life partners that you're happy with, that are healthy for them, and be able to navigate life's up and downs like a healthy adult, okay? Even if you don't know how to do that now, even if you're like, I don't know how to do that, so how could I teach them? That's what I'm here for, okay? So be well, book your call if you haven't already, and have a wonderful weekend. I will talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.